Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
A dragon standing sentinel over its domain. A piper frozen in a merry stance. An unidentified animal ready to pilfer vegetables from the nearby garden. These creatures and characters, made from metal and glass, inhabit the yard of their creator, Spokane's John Jankovsky.
The glass has been part of my life now for about 5 years, and the metal sculpture is brand new. It's about 6 months old.
John is a therapist by profession. His free time is often spent here in the basement of his office building, where he has his studio. John is self-taught in his art. His adventurous nature and his experience with tools give him the courage to try new things.
I saw a piece of bent glass at one of the local art glass stores, and I was very curious about how anybody could bend glass. And I asked, and they said, well, you have to have a kiln for that. And so I, over the years, acquired a kiln and just started melting glass.
Since art is simply a hobby for John, he begins his pieces with salvaged glass and metal, which are relatively inexpensive. He creates his images with colored glass powder and thin glass rods that are then heated in a kiln. He's learned his craft by consulting with books and artistic friends, but only after conducting his own creative experiments. Most of John's fun comes from learning by playing.
I think I go in two directions. One would be where I have an image that I want to portray, and I might try many different ways to do that particular image, either in the glass or the metal or a combination. Or I might find some material that looks like it might be interesting to work with, and I don't have an image in mind, so I just start working with the material and arrive at some of the more abstract pieces. This is the first piece I ever made in the kiln. I made it about 5 years ago, and I had a really funky kiln. It was very small. A fellow gave it to me, and it had a tin lid on it, and it would only fire one tile at a time, and it didn't have a pyrometer or a gauge to measure the temperature, so it was all hit or miss, and I fired 4 different tiles in order to get this effect. And I still like it. It was just one of the most fun things I ever did, and I was just giving them fits at the glass store because they were sure you couldn't do this sort of thing without a pyrometer. And now I have a very high-tech kiln, and I have a pyrometer, and I don't think I could ever do this again.
John likes experimenting with tools and procedures in his art pieces. Sometimes his innovations don't work, but sometimes they do.
This is a large piece of cast iron found at a salvage yard, which has a very nice shape to it, and it works well in the kiln because the cast iron takes on and gives up heat slowly. And when I place this in the kiln, then I can take a flat piece of glass like this plate glass here, and I have to balance it in the kiln like this, and then as the kiln warms up, at a certain point the glass slumps over this form and takes on the form and also the texture of this wonderful shape.
Many of John's art pieces are inspired by the drawings of primitive cultures, though he feels free to make his own adaptations.
So many of the cultures have the same designs, but perhaps with just a different line in the body or a different design on the head. And after doing these for a few years, it doesn't seem so necessary to keep it straight. You know, the idea is not for me to portray Anasazi images from the Southwest. It's just to make an image that flows, and I might take some from this and take some from that. A lot of art is derivative. You know, we get it from here and we get it from there.
With all the experimentation in John's artwork, what reaction does he hope to receive from the viewer?
I don't. I'm curious at their reaction, but I don't really have a particular reaction I'm after. because mostly this is for me. I got into doing this just for me, just for fun. And the business of moving art away from my, my own studio or selling it or giving it or trading it seems to be secondary to the process of just doing it. I have a friend who came in one day and said, "Boy, I sure wish you wouldn't use that orange. I just hate that orange in your pieces." And then the next person that came by loved the orange. And I didn't even think about the orange. The orange in that piece wasn't the important part. It was the blue in that particular piece.
In John's work as a counselor, he utilizes art therapy, especially when working with children. Aside from that, he likes to keep separate his professional life of counseling and his personal world of sculpting.
I think the mystery is present in both the art and the psychotherapy work. I'm real respectful of the mystery involved with the complexities of relationships, and I'm real respectful of the mysteries that occur working with materials. You know, I'm real humbled by both. I think what happens is it gives me a way to be with parts of myself that I don't always understand, that have to do with movement and color and the senses, as well as some of the problem solving of working with the materials. We don't have permission inside, perhaps, to go explore. We think we're supposed to go to school, or we're supposed to have a cousin that was an artist who showed us how. I think if an individual picks up material and messes with it, plays with it, is willing to have it not turn out like they imagined, then that's the process of making something that would eventually be called art.
For John Jankovsky, artwork does not have to be prize-winning or acceptable to a sophisticated circle of connoisseurs. It is simply the end result of allowing himself to explore and play. For John, the process of sculpting is at least as important as the sculptures themselves.
Is it art? Maybe. If it isn't, who cares, you know?
If you have a topic for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington, 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.